Okay guys, so for today's video, I will be going over two good filter indicators that could really improve any strategy you apply them on. These indicators mainly filter trends. To give the best possible entry from the main indicator, we would be using the Bitcoin chart to go through these filter indicators. And we are on the 5 minutes time frame. Please don't forget to smash the like button, as it really helps the channel's growth in posting it content for free. Now for the second indicator for this video. We have the waddah attah explosion by Heikin. But before we move on, let's add our trend detector to the chart. We would be using a simple moving average. So let us add the moving average as our main indicator, as we would be testing out the filter indicator on a buy and sell signal from the moving average. We would adjust the moving average, as we would be changing the length to 18. So watch till the end to fully understand the indicators and how to use them. And first indicator would really be worth it. Now as we move on, this waddah attah uses MACD and Bollinger Bands to track trend direction and strength. On the chart, we can see that the indicator has a lot of different scripts. We won't be adjusting the inputs, but let me increase the opacity for the indicator for better visualization. So go ahead and bring up the settings panel. Change the explosion line to yellow and increase the opacity. Also change the dead zone line to white and increase the opacity for better visualization. Now let's quickly run through some trades to see how effective this tool can be. But before we do, let me quickly go through what this filter indicator does. We have the white dots on the indicator, as they are the dead zone line. They work as a filter for weak signals. We would not be taking trades if the red or green histogram is below it. For the yellow line, it is the explosion line, as when it is above the dead zone, it shows that there is momentum in the market, while the green and red histogram indicates the bullish and bearish trend in the market. Now when we get the price close below the moving average, we are in for a sell trade, as we would be checking our filter indicator. We would want to see the red histogram above the dead zone, and also above the explosion line, as we would also want the explosion line be above the dead line, before we enter trades at the bottom of the trigger candlestick. And as we can see here that our conditions were being met, as we have the red histogram above the dead zone, as well as being above the explosion line, and we could also see that our explosion line is above the dead zone. So this would have been a good sell entry. As you see that price traded in our favor. Now this next cross above the moving average was not triggered. As we can see, we have our green histogram below the explosion line, so we will be skipping this trade. And again we had price close below the moving average on the next candlestick. As we trail our filter indicator, we could see we had our entry at this point, and we could see if we opened a trade here, it would have been a success, as price was more on bearish. This cross above the moving average was not valid, as we see the filter indicator had the explosion line below the dead zone, as this shows there is no momentum in the market. So we would be skipping this trade, as we could see how the filter indicator is doing a great job at eliminating bad entries from our main indicator. As we move forward, we can see that price crossed and closed below the moving average at this point, but there were no action on the filter trend. So we had to wait till we got an entry here, before we go ahead to place a sell stop at this point. And if we move a bit further, we could see we were successful. And now at this point, we see we got a buy order from our moving average, as price crossed and closed above the moving average. And looking at our filter indicator, we can see it gave the go-ahead order to enter the trade, and we can see it was successful. Okay traders, I think we will be stopping here for this indicator. Let's now quickly go over to the top indicator for this video. So for the top filter indicator on the chart, we have the top indicator on Tradingview. It's no other than the squeeze momentum indicator by Lazy Bear. There are a lot of ways to use this indicator, but for the purpose of this video, we will be using it as a filter indicator. So let's go ahead and add the indicator to the chart. Bring up the indicator panel and search for the squeeze momentum indicator. Let's make slight adjustment to the indicator, as we would be using it to gauge the momentum in the market. Go ahead and double click on the indicator. On the style, change color 1 and color 3 to white. then click on OK button when you are done. Now for this indicator, we will not be using the moving average on the chart, as they hardly work with squeeze momentum. So let's remove this moving average from our chart. But on the squeeze, we would want to add 2 band lines to the indicator to better help gauge the momentum of the market. Now watch closely as we discovered a high win entries on how this indicator works, but we do not recommend using it alone, even though it has high winning probabilities. Now I want you to add 2 band lines to the indicator to enable us gauge the momentum in the market. When you add the first line to the indicator, set its input to 90. Also add the second line the indicator, and also set its input to -90. Now let me quickly explain how we enter trades with the indicator looking like this. As we can see on the indicator, we would want to see the histogram be above or below the band line for a buy and sell signal respectively, before we trail our entries to open trade. Now for a valid sell entry, we would want the histogram to be colored in red, and we would want to see it close below the -90 band line, as this shows there is strong bullish movement in the market. Now we have to trail our entry till we get a green histogram on the chart. Then we enter trades at the next white histogram, but make sure the green histogram never closed above the 90 band line before we got the white. And we see we met our conditions here, so this would have been our trigger candlestick. So let's move forward and see how it performed. And we could see it was successful. Now on this next entry, we could see that the histogram closed below the -90 band line again, and when we waited for our green histogram, we had it close above the 90 band line, so we would not be taking any trade on this white histogram, as at this point we would hunt for buy entries if our conditions are met. Let's move a bit further. We could see here again, we had the red histogram close below the -90 band line again, as we won't be placing any buy trade at this white histogram, and at this point, we are hunting for sell entry. Let's move a bit further, and we could see we got a green histogram that closed above the 90 band line, as our sell trade becomes invalid on this white histogram. The reason we do this is because we would want to enter trade at the point of a well-established market momentum, as we would want to buy when market retrace, without having enough sellers that are in the market. So at this point, we will hunt for buy entry as we have these histogram above the 90 band line. Let's move a bit further, and finally, we got an opportunity here, as when we got this white histogram below the squeeze momentum, our red histogram did not close below the -90 band line, so we would be entering trade here. Let's move on to see how the trade did, and we can see it was a massive move in our favor. Notice how we barely take trades, but when we have one, we have high win ratio. You could comfortably use 3 times your risk on this filter indicator, as it gives good entries. Now our next trade would be a buy also, as we see the green histogram closed above the 90 band line, so we would wait for the retracement before we enter trade if our conditions are met. Let's move on, and we could see we got another entry here, as the red moving average did not close below the -90 band line before we got our white histogram. So we would have placed a buy trade here, and as we move on, we see it was a massive win also. Now moving on. We had no entries till we got a sell entry at this point, as our condition for entering trades are met. And we could see it was a decent win. Okay traders, please make sure to properly backtest before you apply any of these 2 filter indicators to your strategy. And that's it for today's video. I hope they better fit in your trading algorithm. Please do not forget to leave a like and subscribe, as it helps the channel publish more amazing content for free. Thanks for watching and happy hunting guys. See you in the next one.